and he's been holding for 5 years. Gaurang, I think this is a favorite stock to talk about. It keeps coming back when you're here. Should Bala continue holding?
It's the most talked about stock. And like I mentioned, Alex, from being an untouchable in the auto stock, Tata Motors have now become the most preferred one. And structurally, fundamental, long-term, we remain positive. But unfortunately, I guess Bala had an opportunity since he's holding the stock for 5 years. And I stand to be corrected. And if Kunal can help me in this, I think the stock touched the low of sub 80 levels, close to 60 back times. That was last year. If I recollect right, and I stand to be corrected if I'm not. But I would request him to still average in case if Bala has investable amount from a long-term point of view. And I think for averaging, my sense is that maybe closer to 300 or 275 in between those zones would be a comfortable zone to initially bring down your investment cost and average it at a lower level. I think if I'm not mistaken, 380 to 410 is the target on Tata Motors, but you need at least about a year and a half to 2 years time, would I?
All right, the next viewer query is from Santi on solar industry, saying the current market price is at around 1,550 odd levels. The stock broke its lifetime high of 1,330 and seems to be bullish. Presently, overbought RSI above 75. Please discuss the future prospects of the company and a good fresh entry point for it. Kunal, what's the take on solar industries? How are the charts looking for this particular company? Makes sense to buy at current levels, or rather, what sort of level should one target to buy?
I think it's a good level to enter the stock. I think at 1500, 1550 levels, even though the short-term RSI is closer to that 75, 77 levels, as the viewer has pointed out. But then what happens is, sometimes when the stock they remain silent, they remain in a range, the RSI naturally goes into a consolidation or into a mean reversion point. Now for the trend to restart again, you need a big jolt from the indicators to try and shift the ranges. So it's possible that many of the short-term indicators, they come back into overbought territories, but this generally happens when the stock goes into a reset mode and the trend gets reset for itself. So I believe solar industry is a stock which is going through that kind of a scenario. I believe at current levels of 1550, it's a good bet. And I think days like yesterday, if I'm not wrong, the stock had gone through a bit of a correction, 3-5%. If you can get such a phase of another correction for the stock, another 5% odd, then I believe that averaging at those levels could also be a good proposition.
Okay, let's pull up Affle India and remember, it's not too long back that this company was listed. It's trading at 5,256, about 0.4% lower in trade right now. We've got Parth who bought the stock at 5,188, Gaurang, and is looking for a long-term view.
So Alex, as a disclosure for the IPO, we had a subscribe note, fundamental long-term side on Affle, and for those who got invested, have investable amount, I would advise dips to add on to the stock. Structurally, fundamental side, we remain positive on that.
All right, the next query is coming in from Shivakumar. He's saying he's planning to enter the Adani Group shares for the longer term. What's your opinion? The horizon, that is 3 to 5 years, is what he's looking at. Gaurang, what's your take on Adani Group stocks? Makes sense to enter for a longer term at these elevated levels?
Cheryl, on the fundamental side, we don't have coverage on any of the Adani Group stocks. But let me say this. I think some of the group companies like Adani Enterprises, Adani Ports, they look to be doing well, but unfortunately because of the regulation, I will not comment buy, sell and hold, since the regulation doesn't permit me, since we don't have a coverage.
Okay, why don't I come to you on this, Kunal, because we've got a number of viewers who are asking about Adani Group companies. And obviously, you're not going to be able to comment on the valuations, but on the charts, what is it looking like to you? I think we've discussed one or two in isolation, but what stands out to you?
many of these stocks, they've done exceptionally well. The charts speak for themselves, the prices speak for themselves over the last 12 months, some of them over the last 3, 4, 5 years as well. But then one of the stock which I think on the very short-term charts, I would say, has sprung up back into action is Adani Ports. That stock, compared to many of these Adani group of names, had just given a recent breakout. I think the breakout was just 5, 6 months back for Adani Ports, where it managed to break past about that 400, 420 kind of a hurdle, and that has led to a strong uptrend for itself. Even in the last 2 months or so, the stock was consolidating, and now it's come back about that 800 level yet again. So I believe both on the longer term charts, medium term time frame, the last 6 months or as well as on the very short term charts over the last couple of months, the stock is showing life back again, that it's ready to break out again on the upside. If that breakout sustains, then I believe Adani Ports could be a stock which can come back to its lifetime highs. I think 980 approximately was the previous high for the stock. So I think from a short term to medium term play, traders could look at a buy on Adani Ports. 900 is where I would place a target range for the stock.
All right. And talking about Adani Ports only, we have a query coming in from Sagar. He wants a technical view on both Cummins India as well as Adani Ports, because he's holding 1,000 shares of Cummins India, which he's bought at around 450 rupees per share levels, 1,000 shares of Adani Ports, which he purchased at 370 rupees levels. He wants to know whether he should book profits from Cummins India and swap the money to Adani Ports. Kunal, both of these stocks have seen a massive rally from the levels that Sagar has bought. So what should he do? Does it make sense to book profit out of Cummins and now invest in Adani Ports, or should he stay put with both the holdings?
You should stay put on both the holdings. Adani Ports we just discussed, some time back. So you can take cues, according to the short term as well as on the medium term outlook. But for Cummins India as well, I think the stock looks extremely attractive. So even though the last 2 months it's gone through a correction from 920 to 780, 770, which it tested, I think, a couple of weeks back, it's still a very strong chart, because when you see a rally from 300 to 900 and then a retracement of 100 points, 120 odd points for the stock from those high, and that process takes itself 2 months or 3 months, which means the stock is going through a mean reversion mode. So, I think that mean reversion seems to have completed for Cummins India. I think at current levels, the stock should be poised for a good risk reward buy. So if time is at your benefit, and if you're not in from a very, very short term view, then I believe you can look to hold on to Cummins. I will expect that the stock, breaking past about that 920 hurdle pretty soon, and scaling past to even that 4-digit mark as well. So bullish on both the names, Cummins as well as on Adani Ports.
All right, steel companies up and about today, once again after trading a little bit weak yesterday, but we've got a question from Shushrut about JSW Steel. He's gotten in at levels of 600 and is wondering whether to hold or to exit at this point. I want to come to you on this one, Gaurang, because I want your view, or I want to know where you stand in this whole argument. There's one brokerage house that comes in and says that we're not in a super cycle for metals. There's another that says that there are people who are talking down metals, but actually we are in a very strong upcycle for this commodity. Where do you stand in this picture, and should you hold on to a JSW Steel?
So there is a very famous saying, Alex, that if two people agree, then one of them is not necessary. And in stock markets across the world, disagreement is what markets thrive on. So we are on the positive side as a brokerage house on the entire metal pack, and I am also aware that this rally in the entire metal pack has come after almost about more than 5 years, and I stand to be corrected if I'm wrong. On domestic side, the consumption theme looks very strong, and if I'm not mistaken, I think there is a price hike that the steel manufacturing companies were speaking about, and it is possibly happen, or it is likely to happen soon. This means that the pricing power is coming back, both for the flat and the long products. So in the metal universe, in order of preference, we are positive on Tata Steel, JSW Steel, JSPL, Hindalco, Vedanta, Hindustan Zinc, and Hindustan Copper. And this question always comes up, Alex: should we book profits? Now it is all up to the investors. What is the risk appetite that you have, and how much do you expect from your investment in equity markets? And I have been always advocating that moment you get 15-20%, if not all, at least book part profits, bring back your capital and a little bit of profit. And if the future outlook of that company is looking good, then stay invested.
All right, the next query is coming in from Satya, and he wants to know about Just Dial. And Kunal, this one is for you. He wants to know, will Just Dial touch 52-week high anytime soon? And what's the forecast for this particular company in the next 3 months? How is Just Dial looking on the charts, Kunal?
I know that this is a very high beta stock and not really favorite from many long-term investors. But the charts for Just Dial are very intriguing because I think from the month of February, when the stock had rallied up from 670, 675 to touching almost that 4-digit mark. I think if I'm not wrong, it had done it. I think in the month of February and March itself, where it had rallied up almost 35 to 40% in that kind of a time frame. And post that, the stock has been consolidating. So both the times in the month of February end, when the rally started, and the last week or so, when the rally again started for Just Dial, on both of these occasions, the chunk of volumes have been significantly high. I was looking at the delivery data as well for Just Dial a couple of days back as well, and there has been slight increase in the delivery percentage points for the stock. So the average volumes have shot up, the delivery volumes have increased up higher, which means that this is now becoming a stock which could be ready for a breakout on the upside. The only question is the very high volatility in the high beta nature of the stock. So it tends to go into those swings of 20-30% corrections, and then significant amount of or similar type of rallies as well on the upside. So if you are okay with digesting that kind of a volatility, then you can look at investing in stock like Just Dial.
Okay, we've got an interesting question coming in from Padma. And Gaurang, I've looked at Indian Energy Exchange, and there are quite a few interesting things to talk about, right? Bought at levels of 350, Padma, as many as 500 shares. Should she hold, or should she sell at this, or switch at this juncture?
Alex, again, on the fundamental side, I don't remember covering the stock. We've not covered the stock, but yes, the company does look promising. It's one of the unique businesses that they are into. No peer comparison amongst the listed peers. As an alternative investment idea, if you ask me, I think life insurance looks quite interesting. And over there, if I have to pick one stock amongst the 4 or 5 listed entities, then HDFC Life would be the alternative investment idea from a long-term point.
Okay, that's fair enough. But I do want to go across to Kunal as well. Just basis the technicals. Now, Gaurang has very clearly said that HDFC Life is interesting as an alternative. But if you were to stay put in IEX, what would the prospects be from 350?
Quite decent on the chart. So I remember tracking the stock a couple of months back as well, when it had jumped up from 150 levels to almost touching that 400 mark, 380, 400. I'm not wrong. If I'm not wrong, around that kind of a price, and it's now gone through a cool-off mode or a correction mode. Now the stock is getting ready for I would say a longer-term uptrend, and I think in that process, it's now going through a process of cool-off or consolidation. So from a longer-term view, I believe that the stock looks fairly attractive. The rally which has happened for IEX in the last 1 year, if it's something to go by, then I believe that the stock could probably have much more upside over the next 2 to 3 years. So I think with that kind of a time frame, you should use every kind of dips on the way for IEX as a good buying opportunity. Specifically, the 2 levels which you can keep an eye on on the stock. One of them is 350 mark, where the stock is currently trading. I think this is a good short-term support, and the other would be just about very close to the 300 levels. I think that's where I believe if the stock corrects gradually over the next 1.5 month, then it could come back and retrace back towards its 200 moving average as well. That could act as a very strong support zone.
Right. Next question is coming in from Krishna Kumar. He's saying he has 100 shares of Wipro, which he's purchased at 340 rupees per share. He's a long-term investor. He wants to know whether he should continue to hold on to the stock. And also one more question he has is, will the stock go to 700 in the next 4 years? Gaurang, what's your view on Wipro? A long-term investor, that's what Krishna Kumar is. He's purchased it at 340 rupees per share. Can he continue to hold on to the stock? And do you think 700 is on the horizon in the next 4 years?
Hope and pray for 700 for the benefit of our investor, Cheryl. But can't comment on 700 on the fundamentals. Maybe technicals might help commenting over there. But this is also one of the stocks, Cheryl, which was an underperformer amongst the large cap IT players. But over the last 3 to 4 quarters, I think the earnings have significantly improved, and so is the business strategy, and that reflects upon the share price movement that we've seen. So if you're not in a hurry, if you have time by your side, stay invested. 700 or not, that I can't comment, but we remain positive on that.
On MMTC, we've got Rohit, or rather, we've got Balan that is bought at levels of 59, which is, I think, more or less where the stock is trading right now. The question is, should they hold on or should they switch to Jindal Saw?
Is that for me, Alex?
Yes, Kunal, for you.
Okay, so I think you can stick with MMTC. I think it's been one of my stocks which I've been recommending since the last I think month and a half on purely on the chart basis, and the extent of volumes which have happened for MMTC in the last 5-6 months. You look at the average volumes, or the chunk of average volumes in the last 5-6 months as compared to the historical average. It's been exponentially high, almost four times or 5 times of the previous average over the last 2-3 years. And in that process of the last 6 months, the stock has rallied up quite well. I think from 15 or 16 levels, it has jumped up to 60, 59, 60 zone where the stock is currently trading. It's forming a classical rounding bottom pattern on the longer term time frame charts. Typically, rounding bottom patterns are, they take almost 8 to 10 years to pan out. And whenever we see a breakout getting very, very close towards that rounding bottom pattern, you see a sudden burst of volumes happening for the stock. So the stock is showing all those ingredients: high volumes, rounding bottom pattern, 10 years of consolidation. And I think if the breakout is successful, the stock can give you a multifold returns over a medium term to long term perspective. So I think purely on that prospect, I would suggest to hold on.
The next question is from Sudarshan, asking about Alkyl Amines. He wants to know whether he can buy it at current market price. This is a good time to enter this particular stock. Kunal, what's your view on Alkyl Amines?
I think it's an interesting stock in Alkyl Amines as well. We were discussing many of the chemical names some time back, that how many of these chemical stocks have performed. Alkyl Amines as well has been one of the stock in that aspect. I think it's trading at 3,600 approximately. The only concern with these kind of stocks is that because of the steep uptrend over the last 12-13 months, the RSIs have gone back into extreme overbought territories. So look at the RSI on the monthly charts for a stock like Alkyl Amines. It's almost at 94, 93 levels on the monthly charts. Now these are extremely overbought territories, and whenever you see cool-offs happening into the stock post these kind of high overbought RSI levels, those cool off, even though they may be short-lived for 2-3 months, but they could be very sharp and intense into the stock price. So wouldn't suggest from a short-term view because of the possibility that the stock may go through a correction anytime in the next 2 to 3 months. But use advantage and be watchful of corrections. If the stock comes back to say 2,700 or 3,000 odd levels, then I think it warrants attention over there from a longer term view, because it could come back to very strong support territories at those levels.
Gentlemen, I'm going to request you to keep your answers very short for the next couple of questions. I'm going to try and slip in as many as possible. We've got a question on Exide. This one's for you, Gaurang. Holding at levels of 189. Would you hold on to this?
Long term, we have a positive coverage. Please hold on.
Okay, I want to come back to you on this one, Kunal. We've got Jacob, who's holding shares of Ircon 3,900 at a level of 44.79. He's planning to hold for 3 months. Should he hold on technicals?
Well, you can hold on till the time the stock is holding just around its support levels of 44, 45. So keep that as a stop loss, and you can continue to hold on.
All right, the next query is on NOSL. This investor has bought about 1,000 shares at 18 rupees in 2014. Wants to know whether he should continue to hold on to this particular counter. This is from RK. Questions coming in from Twitter. Gaurang, what's your view on NOSL?
Well, no coverage on the fundamental side, but purely looking at the return that this gentleman is making, I think you should book some part profits and get into some strong private sector.
Coming back to you, Gaurang, on MCX, bought at levels of 1,350. Pranav is holding 200 shares. Would you hold on for the long term?
So I remember, Alex, quite a while back, we were positive as far as the IPO was concerned. This is a couple of years back. Structurally, we remain positive as far as the fundamental call is concerned.
All right, and that was the last query for the day. But before that, before we wind down this entire segment, let's take a look at what are the high risk and low risk ideas from my experts today. And Kunal, what's your high risk and low risk idea for the viewers?
Also, first one which I'm suggesting is about ICICI Pru. Insurance stocks doing pretty well. Stock also nearing a breakout. Buy with a target of 600. Stop loss to be kept at 550. And the second is from the PSU banks, and I'm extremely bullish on the prospects of the PSU banks from a near to medium term. So would suggest a buy on PNB. Targets to be kept at approximately 50 and stop loss to be kept at 39.
Yeah. Gaurang, coming to you on your high risk and low risk ideas. What do you have for us?
So OMC major BPCL, which is in the news for divestment, happens to be the preferred pick, 252. 552 is the target, I beg your pardon. This is fundamental long-term low-risk idea. So BPCL targeting 552, and the second one is Aarti Industries, targets of 1900. This is also fundamental low-risk long-term call.
Okay, thank you so much to the both of you for sharing your views, for taking the queries that you did. Well, I hope that it helped as many people as possible. We're slipping into a short break, more on the other side, so do stay tuned.